We'd like to welcome Charlene Nelson with us today from the Provident Home Companion. Today, we're going to be talking about how we can prepare right now in the middle of an emergency, how we can prepare our homes and our families at this time of uncertainty. Right now, it is the end of March right now, and we are in the middle of stay-at-home orders with COVID-19.
Craziness.
It's crazy, huh?
Yeah, complete crazy.
Have you ever experienced anything like this?
Not like this. No, never. Yeah, this is crazy.
A couple of weeks ago, what's been happening with my family with it is that we have been we had moved to Boulder, Colorado from our home in Utah for a work project that was going to take about 3 months. And we had been there for about 6 weeks when COVID-19 started to become more prevalent in the United States. And I have 4 young children, and we were staying in an Airbnb, like just a rental property there in Boulder. And as everything started going down, I started to realize that, oh my goodness, like I might be stuck in place with my family. I don't have my supplies with me. I don't,
Right. What
you
do
know,
I do?
yeah,
Yeah.
I don't even have like extra toilet paper. I mean, in my house in Utah, I had, my storage. In
Yeah.
Airbnb, I had nothing. And so we decided to pack up and come back to Utah and to be, and have our supplies and our support network here. And so ever since then, it's just been this kind of this weird, funky zone. And how's it been for you? Like, what has it been like for you, and where are you located?
Well, we live on the plains of North Dakota. We're about 25 miles from Fargo, which is the biggest city in North Dakota. We have a little 4-acre farmstead, a house that was built at the turn of the early 1900s. We've lived in this place for I think we were 24, 25 years, close to that we've been here at this house. And so, and when we first moved here was actually the first year we moved here was 96. North Dakota, this area, experienced the worst winter in record. And we were just hammered week after week after week with huge winter storms, took power out, food, the stores were closed for 2, 3, 4 days at a time. And of course, every time a storm was predicted, everyone would race to the store and, buy up all the bread and eggs and whatever, And after, 2 or 3 of these storms, we started realizing we were maybe in over our heads, And so and then at the very, very tail end of this whole winter in April of 97, we had this huge ice storm. At the same time, they were telling us, well, this dam that's about 10 miles away may break. And if that breaks, then water everywhere. We were looking at massive flooding. It was nuts. And then that ice storm left us without power for 10 days. And so, and again, first part of April, still really, really cold. We're having to run the sump pump in our basement to keep our basement from flooding. And it was just a huge, huge lesson. Anyway, this was the beginning of our plan to become better prepared. We never wanted to experience that again. That sense of helplessness, that sense of real panic and uncertainty. What do you do when, another storm is predicted, And so we did. We kind of set out for ourselves a roadmap of where we wanted to be and how long we wanted to take there. And we just took steps every year. And every year we've added to our preparedness storage. By storage, I don't mean just food storage, but like our knowledge, our habits, that whole map of how to be prepared. We just kept adding to it. I took classes, we read books, we gained more knowledge. I grew a garden, I expanded my garden, then I expanded it some more. And so now that this has happened here with this whole coronavirus thing, when it first started, I didn't really realize the impact of it. I was actually going into Costco one day, 3 weeks ago, in fact, and saw all these people coming out with piles and piles of toilet paper and water. And I was like, what is going on? This is crazy. And then it was like later that day that I heard that this was the thing, to go and grab toilet paper and water. And we really haven't had to do, we've just kind of been sitting here with our food. We go to the grocery store and there are a few things we're getting, but we don't have to panic buy. And except for toilet paper, there's nothing in the store that we want that isn't there.
Mhm.
Mostly I just go to the fresh vegetable aisle and maybe the meat aisle, and all the canned good stuff I really never pay attention to. So how has this affected us? Not a whole lot, to be honest. I look at others and I am having a hard time deciding, is it because I'm so prepared that this doesn't bother me, or am I just like completely out of tune with reality? I don't know. But there's a real good sense of just calm when you don't have to race to the store for more bread and milk and eggs.
Yeah, must be a very peaceful place to be, and especially amid all of the crazies that's happened around us. Unfortunately, I think that most Americans are not in your situation, and that they have
No.
to be prepared. They are living on a weekly, even sometimes a
Yeah.
daily basis.
Right.
So many Americans are used to going out for a meal or two every single week, if not more, going and grabbing their breakfast on the go, grabbing lunch on the go, and their food stores at home are not necessarily up to par. And now being faced with being in self-isolation in our homes, stores in certain areas of the country are even closing. I mean, all of this is happening. It's really, there's a lot of people asking, what do I do? Like, how do I prepare when I am in the middle of an
In the
emergency?
middle of it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And many people have also lost their income because, their places of work have closed.
Right.
You
Right.
know, Charlene, how would you approach this? I mean, you have been a teacher, a student and a teacher of preparedness for a long time. What do you do in a situation like this?
Well, I think the first and really, really most important thing is take a deep breath. Just breathe. That's right. It's okay. Number two is do not act out of fear. Act out of generosity, goodness, kindness. If you are looking for generosity, if you're looking for abundance, it is there everywhere we look. And we see this in the, if we look on the news and we hear how businesses are responding and groups are responding to help each other out in this time of crisis, there is a lot of generosity and goodness out there. And so just focus on that. And then come up with a roadmap. You know, where are you now? Where do you wish you were? Where do you want to be, next week, next month, a year from now? And just, kind of break it down into little bite-size, tiny little steps of, okay, right now we don't have enough toilet paper in the house. That's the big thing, for everybody. Okay, all right, for some that's a huge panic. Okay, just let's, again, deep breaths. What can you do about that?
Mhm.
What are your options? And there are options. Um, maybe you have a friend who's well stocked. Maybe they'll barter with you and trade a couple package of, toilet paper. So you'll get through this week, with toilet paper. Um, so find out what is your first most immediate concern and how can you address that? And think outside the box. It's obviously not going to be run to the store. That option has been closed for a lot of us. So what are the other options? What are the good things in your life? In my life, it's friends and family. So that's who I'll rely on. That's where I feel I have this great abundance in my life. And I'm sure most people do as well. So look to where the abundance is what I say is the first and most important thing.
That's really important. That mindset and what we focus on is so important. I love the quote that says, what you focus on grows.
Right.
What you focus on will grow. And so if you're focusing on that abundance, if you're focusing on the goodness, if you're focusing on the opportunity that's there,
Mm-hmm.
you'll start to see more of it.
Yeah.
And at the same time, though, if you focus on the lack, if you're focusing on the things that you're missing or that you don't have, you're going to start
Right.
breeding more. the lack in your life as well. So
Yeah.
focus, so
Yeah.
important. I'm so glad you shared that.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and then, I tell everybody there's 5 steps. In fact, here, let me, if I can share this screen, this one. Here are the 5 steps to getting your food storage work, or just getting out of any of this. First, decide what you need. That's what I said. Figure out your number one concern. What is it? Then take inventory. Okay, look at what you already have. That's where I said, turn to your friends, your family. What other resources do you have? Are you willing? Do you have a bunch of, scrap fabric? Are you willing to use fabric? Little pieces of fabric, instead of toilet paper. Then set a monthly budget. How much can you afford? What can you get each month, or each week, whatever your thing. And then as you accumulate it, don't buy a lot. Don't go and buy a whole truckload of food or a whole truckload of toilet paper. Just buy, pare this down into bite-sized pieces, and then use it as you go. And then this really is number 5, I think, is your most important skill that you'll learn. And that is how to keep a running inventory. Always be aware of what you have in reserves, whether we're talking food, whether they're talking non-food, your money, and then your other outside resources, your own knowledge, your friends, your family. Always keep in your mind, what do I have on hand, and and make best use of that.
This list can be found at providenthomecompanion.com, which is Charlene's website. It's a fantastic resource. She has so many resources on there, so it's a fantastic website. And this is 5 steps to a successful food storage. And we will post a link to this in the show notes, so you guys can visit there and check it out. I think that one of the things that stood out for me in this list that I really liked was the last point that you just talked about, number 5, about taking inventory. And I don't know, I would love to get your thoughts on this, but my gut feeling is that because we're in the middle of a disaster, that I almost would turn this list upside down and start with number 5.
Yeah.
Or say, what do I have right now? Do I have an inventory of everything that I have? I mean, I think that I have the can of beans that's in the back of the pantry. It's harder to let's see, how do I say this? Like, when I'm thinking about what to make for dinner for my kids in the evening time, and I know I can't run to the grocery store to get that, it's really stressful to think, oh my gosh, what's in the back of my pantry, and having to go look. But if I had a list that I had, in a time whenever I'm not in the middle of trying to make a meal, or, having the pressure of children, saying, Mom, I'm hungry, but if I make a list to put it on a spreadsheet, or even just just on a piece of paper,
Yeah. Yeah.
and look at it and know what I have, it makes it so much more manageable.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, when you have that inventory, again, your perspective is on the abundance of what I do have, not what I don't have.
Yeah. Yes, that is so true. That's so true. And then, so once you kind of know what you have, it's kind of going back down the list, kind of upside down here. Number 4 would then be use what you store.
Mm-hmm.
Use the things
Use what you've got. Yep.
And
Yep.
you begin to see, like, oh goodness, I guess I don't need to run out and buy another can of tomatoes.
Exactly. Yes. Exactly. We're set.
Yeah. And then going back up to number 3, setting a monthly budget. Whenever things are uncertain and income may not be, you may not know when your place of work's going to open up again. How do you look at budgeting for replenishing storage? Do you not do that? Like, how do you budget in this uncertain time?
Well, again, first of all, we need, I'll send you a link I didn't send you a link earlier, but I'll send you a link to this one particular article on budgeting, because to me, really budgeting is easy. Don't spend more than you have. That's the easy, it's in one sentence. Don't spend more than you have. However, all of us really do understand that. And so why is budgeting so hard? Because of the emotional component to spending and to having things. And So we need to, like, let's just, again, deep breath, and let's evaluate, why am I buying this? Why do I think I need to buy
Mhm.
X, whatever X is? And can I make do without? Can I be happy making do without? Because a lot of people can do without, but they're just grumbling and, bad attitude the whole time. It's not about doing without, it's about being happy while doing without.
Mhm.
Um, can I repurpose something? Can I get this something through, at a thrift store, or again, bartering or trading with friends or neighbors? Um, so, that's, again, it goes back to keep track of what you have, act out of graciousness and um, gratitude and so forth. Um, and so, yeah, we there's a lot of people who are saying now, okay, I need to go get food storage. I need to just kind of like start stock, going into prepper mode. Um, that's not very smart. You gotta just, this has to be sustainable. This has to be something you can do week after week, month after month. And when we hit little coronaviruses in the road, little bumps in the road, it's not going to derail us, because we have set a reasonable, sustainable um, set of goals and priorities for how we're going to spend our money and where it's going to go.
Yeah. It's almost the tortoise and the hare, where,
Yeah,
yeah, you don't need
very
to
much.
sprint and like, oh my goodness, I need to all of a sudden get all of my food storage at once. But rather, even though we're in the middle of a crisis right now, we can still move forward steadily, and we don't need to feel the panic, the fear, the
Right,
rush. That
right.
even just incremental additions to our food storage, just say, I like to say that, the best time to prepare for a disaster was yesterday. But the second best time to prepare for a disaster is today.
Today, yes, yes.
And that preparation doesn't need to be all of a sudden go and buy the entire year's food storage tomorrow. It can
Right.
be that action that habit that you're wanting to get into for long term. Um, Provident living, like buying that extra can, one extra can of tuna, or an extra can or a bag of rice. I remember before this conversation, we had a chance to just talk briefly, and you shared with me what some family members are doing in Brazil to help these families who are in very destitute situations. Can you share with us that story? I think.
Certainly. Yeah, yeah. So in Brazil, most people live a very modest life, especially compared to American standard of living, and yet they are very serious about having a food supply in reserve for hard times like this. And so what they do is every day they eat rice and beans at every meal. That's like the national food. Every lunch and dinner is rice and beans. And so when the mother or whoever is, preparing the meal, she will take out a handful of rice and a handful of beans and set those aside. And actually, they'll use oil quite often. And so they'll have all these empty oil bottles, plastic bottles from oil. And so they'll put the rice and the beans in one, container of rice and one container of beans, and set it on the shelf. And, by the month's end, they have a full bottle. And by the year's end, they have, 12, 15 full bottles. And so even living a very modest lifestyle and having a very modest income, they are able to find just a handful of surplus every day and put it aside for future use. And we can do the same.
That is amazing. So these families who have close to nothing are able to
Mhm.
build up a big food supply. And so even if we, in our lives right now, if you've lost your income, or if you've lost your ability to go to the grocery store, or whatever it might be, we can start little by little, just setting one thing to the side, adding one
Yeah,
thing to our storage, one handful of rice, one handful of beans.
that's right. That's right. And, I've often said that even if, your fairy godmother were to come and deliver a whole semi-load full of everything you needed, um, paper products, rice and beans, all your food, all your water, all your medicine, whatever, and deliver a whole semi-load at your door. So you were like instant foods, instant prepped, you still wouldn't have the essential ingredients. You still would not be that much better off, because 90% of this is all about mindset.
Mm.
What are you focusing on? How well do you manage what you have? Because if you can't manage the little you have, chances are you can't manage having a lot either. So learn to manage those little things that are already, in your sphere, and then continually add to it over time.
So if you could give everyone listening just one or two quick actionable steps that they can take right now to help them in the middle of the emergency right now to feel more prepared at this time of uncertainty, what would you say?
Okay, number one, write down your inventory right now. Go through your house and take inventory of everything. And I mean everything. In your bathroom, mouthwash, toothpaste, how many toothbrushes do you have? How many light bulbs do you have screwed into the, wall? Take inventory of everything, and not just things, friends, your skills, your knowledge, your books, access to education. Write down everything you have. Okay. Then number two, identify your most important need and start working on that. Whatever that most important thing is that you need to get you through to the end of the week, work on that. You'll have to think outside the box, maybe. You'll have to, maybe, if stores aren't an option, if you don't have the money or the stores are closed or whatever, okay, what else can you do? And that's where good friends and family come in, because you call them up and say, hey, I'm stuck here. What can I do? A lot of times you'll get some really good, creative answers, new perspective on what you're doing. And then I really think that one of the best things we can do is start a garden. If a garden will give you food, might not give you a lot. If you're new to gardening, you're probably only going to plant, one tomato and a few radishes, but that's okay. That's a couple salads that you didn't have before. So plant a garden. And if nothing else, it makes you happy. It is so nice to see your plants growing and to go out and dig in the dirt and just be part of, fresh air and nature outside. So yeah, get a packet of seeds, get a few plants at Kmart or Walmart or whatever, and start a garden.
I love that. I love that. So take inventory, know where you're at, and get creative. And then number two, get outside, get in the dirt, plant some seeds. It's springtime. It is a great time to be outside. There's something that is healing about being in the dirt. I mean, it's more than
Yes.
just the plants that are growing and the cultivating. It's being out there on this earth. We are all made up of elements that
Yes.
the earth is made of. And it's, especially whenever we're feeling the stress and the anxiety of the chaos around, or being in the earth can be very grounding and
Yeah.
to our souls.
Yeah. Yeah.
Charlene, thank you so much for this conversation. We are going to have another conversation later about gardening. So stay tuned. We look forward to talking with you more, and I hope you have
My pleasure.
wonderful day. Lots of love and light to everyone out there.
Thank you.